I'm Stefan Baumann. Welcome to the Grand View. America's national parks through the eyes of an artist. Okay, so the sisters went out to go painting, and I thank you so much for giving me a call at 5:30 in the morning. Thank you so much, saying we're on our way. A text saying she's on her way. And so, yeah. So was it different going up in the morning? Getting up in the morning? But see, that's the dedication I want to see. That is what it takes. Artists don't do that. Artists are like priests. They sleep until like 10 or 11.
There you go.
And then they get drunk.
I want that.
Yes, it's cold.
It was freezing. It was very cold.
Yeah.
We
You know,
forgot our gloves, so you couldn't even feel the tips of your fingers. But who cares?
but you feel alive.
Yes, it was nice.
You know, if you don't like being outside, if you don't like being outside in the cold, and if you don't like being outside in the heat, and if you don't like being bit by bugs, and if you don't like, you know, heat and all of the things and traffic and stuff, then maybe plein air painting is not for you.
It is great. It's a beautiful way to.
It's the extremes that make it enjoyable. I think about the few times, well, not the few times, but you know, at times when I've gone plein air painting, and almost every one of my plein air paintings has this personal attachment story. Not that like great things happen, you know, it's not like Baumann shows up on my shoulder and said, hey, we want to like have you paint my commissioner. No, but they're like, you know, like I'd go make the effort to go to Yosemite Christmas Day. So I would get up at 3 in the morning and I would pile into my car and drive there. And you know, at Christmas time in the Central Valley in California, it's always foggy. And I can remember every year driving in this tule fog, pitch dark, and I couldn't see anywhere. So that was part of the excitement. I mean, one time when I went up there for one of my early things, I hit a deer. So that was exciting. Not that hitting a deer was, yeah. So, but then I would get there, and then I remember standing on a snowbank at sunrise in Yosemite and being so cold that that's what I recall. And when I look at the painting that I did, you know, the one in my bathroom of Half Dome, so cold standing on that thing, I could just remember being there. And so that was like the excitement of it. Then I remember after standing outside, you know, because when you're painting, you forget. You notice that? You kind of like are, you know, so like you're sitting on the snowbank, freezing to death, and you're painting, and you're lost. And that's such a beautiful moment because you're in with nature, especially like, you know, when you think about Christmas Yosemite Day in Yosemite, there's not a lot of people there. So you don't even get any interruptions of cars or anything. It's just you and the site. And that's one of the beautiful things about painting out on location is that being in a place when people are not. And a lot of times when I go painting in the Grand Canyon, I would be there in the morning, and then the tour buses would show up at about 10 or 11. And the rest of the time, it's horrible. And all they get to see is the canyon when it's flat. And I would be out there when it was extraordinary. And so few people actually do that. But to be an artist, you have to actually do that. So I remember standing there, and then while I'm standing there, I'm so in love with what I'm doing is that I forget everything. And then there comes that time, and you probably sense that too, when about an hour and a half go by and stuff, and you go, I think I'm finished. I think I've gone about as far as I can go. Because normally 2 hours is about the window that you want to paint outdoors. Anything more and you're going to be somewhere else. But then it's like, you can't get away fast enough. You know, it's like, I remember like one of the times, I mean, I was standing on that snowbank painting Half Dome and totally comfortable and at ease. And then I thought to myself, oh, I think I'm done. I think I'm done with this. And then all of a sudden I had to pee. And you know how cold it is? You know, and then when it's really, really cold and you really have to go to the bathroom, oh my God, I was like, And my feet were, and I jump into the car, and I'm so cold that I can't find my keys, and they're in my pocket, and I can't reach in there, and I gotta
You didn't go in the...
go. Yeah, like, no, it's a national park. You don't pee in a national park.
Wait, did you get 10 years old? Give some
Well, I'm 10 years older now. Now it's like,
souvenirs to show.
now I carry a pee bottle in my car. What's really bad is that I've gone down to Chinatown in San Francisco. And same thing, you set up in Chinatown. It's Sunday morning in Chinatown. It's fascinating because they have all the funerals. And most people don't go down there Sunday mornings. But it's like if you're down there Sunday morning at 6 o'clock and you're painting on the street corner there, you have these funerals that come by every half hour. And there are bands and open caskets and horses and stuff. You never see that stuff, you know, because tourists don't get up until 11 or 12. Most artists don't either. But, you know, if you want to be good, you got to go there. So you get to see a lot of things you normally don't. But there you are, and then all of a sudden afternoon rolls around, and you're downtown San Francisco with all of your paints and supplies and stuff, and your car is somewhere else, and then you have to pee. It's like, oh my God, it's just awful. And you can't like just do it right there. I mean, you know.
People in the street.
So, yeah, so anyway, so it's awesome to get up in the morning and do that. The same thing at sunset. You do have the parks to yourself. But it's the things that you curse about while you're there, your fingers being cold and all the uncomfortable stuff that make you feel alive, that when you get back, you go, wow, it was an experience.
It was like going to a boot camp and we survived. Getting up early, getting over there, being cold.
But I think that's part of the fun of it.
That was the good part because we felt really good that
You conquered something. You conquered something, and you get to come home with something.
awesome honors.
And the world's quiet.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is great. I mean, and then you come home with souvenirs, and then you bring. It's like every time this is a bathroom class. Every time I go into the bathroom where I have my little half-dome painting, I'm like, God, I remember that day. So anyway, yeah. So it's really, really special. So let's take a look at some of these, real quick.
First show that they're on the wood. How nice it paints on the wood.
Well, this is panels. This is Sourcetex panel. It's a birch wood. If anybody wants their phone number, it's 800-587-5462. Canvaspanels.com. But they do a nice product. No, they're canvas on top. They're linen canvases on top. They do all kinds of products.
It's just
Yeah. I believe Matt Smith uses them, but it's high-end oil prime canvases. So, and if you're painting outdoors, you want to be on board. So you want to be on some kind of board. Now, one of the things when I asked you about this, I said, well, I could have a little bit more paint, and you said, well, I kind of like the idea of the linen showing through. And so there are students that I have that are very picky about seeing canvas texture. We won't mention who they are, but there are a few that really like it.
What's their name?
I can't say. She'll be embarrassed in this class, but she likes very, very thin. And I do too. In fact, I've gotten to the point, like you, because I said you're more like me than anybody, that I've gone completely canvas free until I get to huge. Although I'm working now on a canvas that's 30 by 40, that's a big panel. But I've fallen in love with slick surfaces. And so
Are you using a gesso board?
I'm using gesso board. Well, I don't use gesso, I use primer. Yeah, ampersand. No, I've gone to without linen on it. But you know, when I was doing linen, I still will at times, but when I was doing linen canvases, I like the surface of the linen showing through. I mean, for God's sakes, I'm paying extra for linen. You know, and part of linen is that it has these little knots and things like that. And it's like, you know, when I asked Isabel, what's her name? Isabel. When I asked you know, and she says, well, I kind of like the canvas, but you know, at the time I kind of liked that. And the things I like, yeah, I know, I like that too. I bought linen canvases. The thing with the linen is it has these knots in it. So you do have the linen surface in there. The problem with it is when you have a lot of that texture showing through, it doesn't illuminate as much. So like if you have a wall that has texture on it as opposed to not. So like if you look at your wall, usually there's texture, and then you have molding, which is smooth. So molding, you tend to paint with enamel and try to really play up that, so that there's more of a luminosity to it, where textures have all these holes. So when you have a lot of holes, it breaks the light up, so it doesn't illuminate as much. So that's something you might want to consider. Now, a lot of people don't paint with enough paint on their canvases. They don't paint with enough paint on their canvases. So consequently, they wonder why their paintings don't illuminate out. Okay, so that's something to consider. So if you're not getting illumination on your painting, if your painting feels a little flat or dark, it's because you don't have enough paint on your canvases. So whose this? So Rada, what were you thinking?
I love the sunrise, and that's what I wanted to capture, because the sun was just coming out. I could have darkened the boat a little bit, but yeah, the focus was just the sun coming out of the fog. I was trying to capture that.
Yeah. Do you think you were successful?
Yes. Could do some more on it.
Well, always.
Always.
Yeah. You know, I think with all of these, they're great. A lot of plein air painters are imposters.
They're what?
They're imposters. Imposters. Yeah. For a couple of reasons. One, it seems like everything that they do is great and wonderful. But the reality is that's all you see is the great and wonderful paintings. Most of them will not admit that they have a whole garage full of paintings that didn't work. Okay, so I think when you think about looking at a group of paintings, and I've been with enough painting groups and painting people and stuff, it's rarely the case where you leave someplace. I mean, when you think about all of the things that couldn't go wrong, all the things that you have to know, even having to be someplace and then figure out how you're going to pee, you know, simple things that other people have to deal with. You know, when you play golf, you just jump into your little cart and go to, you know, I'm pretty sure you can't do that out in the golf thing, but they probably have, you know, restrooms. You don't have that with that. You know, it's like golfers don't go out and play golf in the rain.
Where there is restroom.
Yeah, but the thing is, for the most part, it's a difficult thing, you know, having to get up in the morning so that, you know, golfers don't get up in the morning. They get up, you know, around lunchtime so that they can hang out at the bar afterwards. So, you know, painting is really difficult. It's a difficult thing. And so the likelihood of you getting it right is very slim. And you look at a lot of these plein air competitions and stuff, and there's some good paintings. For the most part, they're not. They're not. And if you go out on a weekend and you can get one good painting out of 6 or 8, you're doing really, really good. I mean, remember back in the olden days when they used to have film and you put 36 pictures in your camera? You know, you had professional photographers that would say, if you got one good photo, you were good. And I'm like going, God, that's easy. You know, all you have to do is sit there and snap. And even now doing something that simple, you'd be lucky to have one good photo. Sometimes when you got on a trip, you'd have 300 photos and you'd have 1 or 2 good photos.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and you're just snapping pictures. But when you're painting, you got to get, you know, your drawing, your perspective, your supplies, everything that you have to deal. You got to stand on one place for hours and hours and hours trying to deal with all of that stuff. It is not an easy thing. It's harder than golf. You know, it's harder. And you don't know when you're out there whether or not you hit it. At least in a golf game, you know you either made it on the green or you didn't. But in a painting, you can be totally fooled for 3 hours thinking, this is really a good idea, and then go home and go, what was I thinking? You know? There's no gauge. So much of it is trial and error, and it's more error than trial. And people give it up because of how complicated it is. So, you know, but the thing is, because it's so complicated, it's so wonderful. It's so special. It's a challenge. And at the end, you have something that, you know, is really worthwhile. This, I feel like you got the sunrise. You notice the nice thick paint where the highlights are? Boom, kind of see it. The boat could have been a little bit more in silhouette. I love the transitioning of light, the illuminating light. You really concentrated on the effect as opposed to the things. And that's, I can't stress that more than anything when you're painting outdoors, is that the things that are out there are just a stage for something to happen. Something's got to happen. It's got to be something about something else. It can't be about the things. What's the key to painting outdoors?
Light?
No, practice.
Oh yeah, practice.
Remember we were saying, it really is about
Yeah,
practice.
it is practice.
That's why you're going to come up to Mount Shasta in the
Yes,
fall?
I'm coming to Mount Shasta.
Coming to Mount Shasta in the fall? We should just have a,
When is that?
it's like October 23rd. So, it's going to be cold? Exactly. No, actually, it could be kind of warm there too at that time. I have no idea. But that's part of it. It's like the elements. You got to get out there and be the elements.